Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Alison Ritz. I am the Director of Product Marketing at VisibleThread. If you haven't joined for our office hours or webinar series before, welcome. If you have, welcome back. So today's session, we are going to talk about the roadmap. So talk about where the platform is headed and what that looks like in the near term. So everything that we're going to talk about today is focusing on the rest of this year, so the rest of 2026, and what you'll see in the next few releases from the VisibleThread platform. So today will be our regular 30-minute slot, and then in the final few minutes, we will have some time for Q&A, and I promise any questions that we don't get to, if you can put those in the Q&A, I'll make sure that you get a response. And anything that we don't cover, anything that we need expanded upon, always, I say connect with me on LinkedIn, but of course we will reach out after. Just some housekeeping items. We will be, of course, sharing the slides and sharing the recording after as well. So again, just wanted to give a quick shout out. If you are not a subscriber of Office Hours, what are you doing? It's so exciting. What we do is we meet every other Thursday and we talk through VisibleThread specific items. We talk through industry specific things. So for example, our next few topics will be, the next topic will be on usage, how usage isn't adoption, what real value looks like from an AI platform. And then our next session will be writing to win. So how we set writers up for success. We will also have a preview there of the word add-in. And then real value from ReviewGate. So how do we really use our reviews to strengthen the draft? And there we will talk about some of our task assignment and workflow management features. So we always try to do a quick 5-minute VisibleThread sort of preview or product feature at the end of the sessions, but the content is generally pretty neutral and we've gotten a lot of good feedback on value takeaways from that. So just kind of quick shout out for the series before we jump in today. So let's talk about our session for today. We really want to talk about the roadmap and have a frank conversation about how we're developing this, what that looks like, and how we're making these decisions, and also how you can be a part of it. So let's talk about how anything gets on the roadmap. So how are we making the decisions on the direction of the product? So really those need to answer our question. A lot of things can filter into this, but they all sort of come down to, does this help teams and help our customers win more work with less friction? So does it help you win? Does it help you put out better proposals and, optimize your process at the same time? So ultimately, every kind of candidate item from customer calls, support tickets, our internal team get tested against that piece. So does it help you win with less friction? It sounds really simple, but it does kind of kill a lot of ideas. So if we're looking at, clever features or, cool visual items, but it really doesn't have direct value, tighten proposals, remove a handoff, it didn't really make the cut for this half, for this first development session for the end of the year. So we're really focusing on, real kind of release content. So we want to show you today, what does that actually look like in practice? So what are the items that we've landed on? What's the direction that we're going? So this is the plan that, our development team is working from. These are the features that we're focused on, not kind of a marketing abstract of it. So today, and you'll see that if you've been to these sessions before, I am generally pretty casual, like to keep it fun. And we're just going to have a real frank conversation about, what this looks like today. And then kind of sequence over dates. So we're going to run these in releases, and you'll see what that looks like later in the session. But we are not talking about specific dates. We're not talking about specific kind of timeline and features and that sort of thing. We're really talking about these in releases and themes. So what we're trying to develop, and we're running specific releases and what that will look like as we kind of finish. So ultimately making sure that we're delivering you features in a timely manner, but that we're delivering the highest quality. And then we'll say what's not coming. So I'm going to be very clear about what the timelines look like, what might be a little bit further down the line, and what the overall goal is for each of our feature sets and our development themes. So talking about those development themes, let's take a look. So these are the 6 themes that are shaping the product for the rest of the year. So this is kind of the whole plan on one slide. Now we have 6 themes here, but this roughly covers 150 scheduled items across the 4 remaining releases or 4 remaining phases of the year. And everything ties into one of these 6 themes. So they're not equal in size. So usability is actually the biggest bucket by kind of raw item count, which sort of surprises people. And reporting and visibility is the smallest, so only 6 items, and lands almost entirely in the first release. So the sizes tell you that something real about where the engineering effort is going. So we really want to give you an idea of what our focus is, what kind of structure you're going to see there, and the schedule that you'll see moving through. So we'll start with the one that is the most near term and is going to shape the product in a really kind of meaningful way. So we'll talk about development theme 1 is team workflow and collaboration. So why is this a focus? So ultimately, VisibleThread historically has been really strong at analysis. So the individual power tools. So you're thinking about, your shreds, your compare, your acronym report. But when we think about how teams are actually running a pursuit, a lot of the coordination is happening outside of the VisibleThread platform. So we're, doing section assignments in a spreadsheet. So statuses in other platforms or other products, or in, additional spreadsheets. A lot of our folks are working a lot off of spreadsheets. And then, our review gates are enforced in different ways. So this gap is what this theme really closes. So what shifts here? So the structural piece is stage transitions with quality gates. So a proposal can't move forward until defined checks are done. Kanban and timeline views are going to give everyone the same picture. Assignments will work at the task level and the proposal section level. Threaded comments with @ mentions will drive in product notification. So ultimately, we're talking about being able to review within the platform, assign tasks, collaborate on work, comments and mentions, look at timelines, look at what you have to review, make sure you're managing your workload and managing your gate timelines and submission timelines appropriately. So ultimately, this collaboration core is going to land in our first release. And I have a slide at the end where we'll talk about our release schedule and what that looks like over the coming months. But one of the biggest pieces here is team workflow and collaboration, and the ability to collaborate, assign tasks, review, and do all of those things within the VisibleThread platform that you were doing elsewhere. So if you are familiar with the platform, if you're a user, ultimately before you were exporting. So I'm creating a shred, I'm exporting it out of the system. I'm doing a compare, I'm exporting it out, and then I'm working from a spreadsheet or transitioning that somewhere else. So we'll have the review capability and, more importantly, the visibility within the platform for all users in a workspace to give you the ability to collaborate. Okay, so let's talk next about our insights and analysis theme. So this is really kind of the engine room, as everything else on the roadmap is going to assume that the analysis underneath is fast and right. So, part of our entire plan is invested here. So we want to talk about some of the things that are changing, as well as some of the new things that you'll see here. So talking about comparison, we are going to add, high fidelity viewers. So looking at 2 different versions of amendments, seeing the actual document, and the ability to assess the source documentation, as well as do reviews right within the platform. Revised approach to our compliance matrix. Ultimately, we rebuilt the approach rather than patching it. So this just isn't, we added some enhanced features or some enhanced views. Our feedback from our customers and feedback from our users told us the old one didn't exactly match how compliance is tracked, and we need to enhance what we're doing. So ultimately, same foundation. That's the really important part of this, is that with the analysis and with these specific tools, same foundation. So same use of dictionaries, same reliability that you can trust, same accuracy and repeatability, but additional customizations. A lot of our customers previously are using macros, setting up their own structures and systems. You're going to have more ability to create those structures, more customizations within the VisibleThread platform. So you're not tied to, I'm going to run the analysis, export, and work in Excel. You can do those things right within the platform, along with, of course, that review and assessment capability. Additionally, a federal compliance matrix feature that will tie to our outline, that'll tie to our written content and help work through the cross-referencing of your content and compliance. A new contracts module. So really contracts evolving in a meaningful way. You're going to have obviously still your shredding, your dictionaries, your compare, but we're going to be adding new redlining views, adding writing and editing capabilities. So ultimately, if your organization kind of push contracts through that proposal workflow as a workaround, you won't have to do that. We'll have separate contracts modules, separate assessment that you can use in those specific cases. So we're really building out the use case and the capabilities for our contracts folks. Multi-doc view and multi-doc shred. Those of you that are using 7.0, you know that that isn't a part of it yet. That will be a part of it in the continued versions through the end of the year. So additional OCR, excuse me. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. I'm just making sure I'm getting through everything. The ability to run image-based documents, OCRs. That's something previously that we would have had to do a conversion, do an OCR conversion outside of to make sure the system can read it. This will be the ability to read scanned images, pull text and pull requirements from images and text and diagrams. So a lot more expanded capabilities when it comes to document analysis and the readability pieces. Another big piece of this is Visi Everywhere. So Visi is our Gen AI assistant. If you've used the platform, you know that Visi right now, you're interacting with her in our creator mode when we're creating content, or in our research mode when we are analyzing documents or creating any type of analysis or overview or outlines or those types of things. So Visi Everywhere will allow you to query documents in any part of the platform. So ask questions, search for specific things, different types of analysis. So it really will layer Gen AI capabilities into some of the analysis parts of the platform. That is the ultimate goal when we think about analysis, is number one, applying the technologies where they're appropriate, and number two, layering them and having them work together. So we have our foundational deterministic analysis. We have the heart and root of VisibleThread that you've come to trust and rely on. And then we are layering on the Gen AI capabilities. So we're starting from a data grounded place and then allowing you to expand and analyze. So ultimately, we want to make sure that you have less time reconciling documents by hand. You're going to get the same kind of first-class treatment that you're used to, but we want to make sure that we are expanding that approach. Next, let's talk about reporting and visibility. Now, I want to call out really quickly, this is the smallest theme. It's the smallest theme because we are really focusing on what people want. So we are not trying to create a bunch of configurable engines that nobody asked for. We're really focusing on the views and the metrics that matter. So we're looking at dashboards for BD, capture, proposals, and contracts. So when we're talking about dashboards, not just, oh, this is what we have in progress. It's what do we have from an outstanding responsibilities perspective. It is how long are things sitting in stages? What do our slowdowns look like? And where do we have bottlenecks in our process? So this is a part of the process where not only are we seeing, overall quality metrics, workflow statistics, the items that we need on a day-to-day, but then we can use that analysis and use those dashboards to really analyze our process. So the system is not just we're going to tack this onto the workflow that you already have. We're really going to help you use the technology to analyze what you're doing, make sure that you're designing workflows and designing processes for the tech that exists today, and continuing to optimize that with data. So ultimately, this looks at our general BD capture proposal dashboards, miscellaneous analysis dashboards, workplace usage stats, and then our user activity. So look at how users are leveraging the platforms and what that looks like from a task management and a overall success perspective. This also makes it a lot easier to have the ROI conversation, for leadership to see the value in the platform and to understand where you have additional areas of opportunity when it comes to optimization. So the next theme is market intelligence. So ultimately, you can't win the opportunity that you never saw, and your process is not only slower, less efficient, but you kind of risk gaps and have redundancies when you're using multiple sourcing platforms or the more areas that you need. So we want to widen the top of the funnel in the VT platform. So that's deeper US Fed coverage, state and local coverage, and serious international sources. So we do have customers that are with us from, Canada, the UK, Australia. We also have a lot of our US federal contractors that are doing international work or have international divisions. So we want to make sure that you're sourcing information in a meaningful way, even outside of the US federal space. So what does that look like in practice? So from a US DEP perspective, that is GovWin, HireGov, grants, SBIR, Seaport, task order portals, richer and more comprehensive eBuy data. So expansion there, then SLED coverage, Canada buys, multiple UK portals, and then Australian portals as well. We have UK portals already live, and then I know Ostender is in trial as well. So we have multiple things happening there. And of course, the enrichment of the federal US and then SLED market also. So we want to make sure that we have depth on the top end to help you source as many opportunities and manage as many opportunities in the system as possible. So next, let's talk about integrations. So we don't want you to have another tab, another system, and most certainly have redundant work. So working in two separate platforms and having those not able to communicate to each other. So ultimately, kind of 5 big items here sequenced on purpose. So the big kind of first piece of this puzzle is the API and MCP server. So that allows you or your engineering teams to not have to wait for specific connections and give you the open kind of ability to build your own connections and integrate in the areas that you need. But we will be working on, in our second release in this last half of the year, Salesforce integration, Google Docs add-in, and MS Dynamics, and then the Box integration. Additionally, the Word add-in, and I know that's in another section because if you've used VT Writer, you've been exposed to the Word add-in in the past, but the Word add-in is in the 7.3 release, the next release, the one that's coming in August. So we have that integration as well. And I've seen that, that's already built and it looks great. So really excited about that also. So ultimately we want to make sure from a your BD team perspective that you have visibility into what's flowing into the system, that these systems are all integrated, and your writers are getting checks inside the systems that they're actually working in. And then finally, the 6th theme here is usability and enhancements. Now, the way you kind of think of this is it's the biggest theme, but the biggest theme is a long list of small things. So really thinking about how can we increase the usability of what we have, and how can we really focus on as we build. So what comes out in 7.3, what comes out in 7.4, 7.5, and on, how can we continue to enhance that experience to make sure that it truly is supporting your workflow and meeting you where you are? So ultimately, what that means in practice from a feature perspective are reusable templates. So templates are a thing that we've been asked about for a long time. So reusable, customizable templates for writing an outline. So we're not reinventing the wheel every time, and you have the connectivity between what you're doing in SharePoint, what you're doing in Microsoft right now, and then templates within the system that are going to allow you to get a huge jump start on creating content or creating analysis. Custom properties on opportunities, proposals, contracts. So additional customizations to make sure this is as usable as possible. So here we're talking about custom fields, custom structures. So the ability to shape the platform to meet you and to meet your opportunities rather than workarounds and kind of half processes. Quick search across list views, smarter compare. So more than 2 documents at a time. That's something we've been asked for in the past as well, is multiple document compare. Better exports. So better exports that are pulling all of this analysis that you're doing. So if we're doing specific types of structuring, if we're doing specific reviews, if we're doing notes, assignments, colorizations, everything that we're doing in the platform, we can export that. We can pull that information and translate it really easily, so we're not duplicating any work, and we're making sure that everything is as effective as possible. And then, multiple watchword and ignore lists, cleaner pages. So there's a lot of specific things here. None of them are big flashy demo things, but they are aspects of the platform that are continuing to develop. So this isn't a situation where we are just throwing a bunch of new features at the wall and seeing what sticks. We're making decisions based on feedback from customers. We're making decisions based on our long history of experience with bid, proposal, BD, contracts professionals, and then using that to develop a product that works for you, and then continuing to enhance those platforms. So this, and again, isn't a retrain, isn't an overhaul every system. This isn't new modules all the time. This is continued improvement to the features that work for you. Okay, so let's quickly talk about some of our foundational pieces of the puzzle, and I want to reiterate. Now, I said in the front end that this isn't a big change of the foundation of VisibleThread. The foundation that you trust is still there. The deterministic part of our platform is a huge part of our development. And if you are somebody who is an AI enthusiast, or you follow some of the development on where AI is used most effectively in the proposal process, and you're testing that out yourself, what you've come to know and understand is that there's a combination approach that makes the most sense and provides the highest quality result. So our system is built with that in mind. So ultimately, a wrong answer is wrong, period. There's not a lot of gray area in our business, and we want to make sure that we're giving you the tools to be accurate, but also faster and more efficient. So we are making sure that we're grounding this where needed in our deterministic layer. So when we're talking about readability scoring, dictionaries, watchwords, compliance checks, that is going to have a deterministic aspect. Like I said, with Visi Everywhere, you may layer GenAI on top of that to analyze your responses, to analyze your coverage, to analyze your approach. But the foundation of that is going to be something that is repeatable, that is something that regardless of who is looking at it, you're going to get the same answer, and it is auditable and defensible, which is a huge part of the puzzle. And then you have our speed, our creativity layer, the GenAI piece. So Visi Everywhere, proposal outline generation, our cross-referencing, text, our text management for fuzzy scans and image-based documents. All of this is, again, grounded in your document. So this is not the model's imagination. So we are using GenAI to create content, to do analysis, to interrogate documents, to create outlines, but we are still grounding that in your content. You're connecting to SharePoint, you're structuring collections, we have traceability, we have referenceability. So all of this works within the confines of what has to happen for you in the GovCon space. And really, Traceability is the biggest piece of this puzzle. As you see these things release and see them develop, and we talk more about this on this series and do feature highlights and showcases, you'll see this theme continue to come back. So everything is traceable by default. So we want to make sure, even when we're generating content, that findings are linking back to our source text. So we are linking back to exact source text. When we're creating outlines, we're showing you the outline that we've created, but you can also trace the requirements that are used to create a section. So I have section 3.2.3, and this is my past performance approach on specific items. I'm going to then show you the 5 requirements from the, or link to the 5 requirements in the document that created the section that make up this section. When you're looking at a technical alignment, I may say that this is well, I might not say, the platform will say that this is, 65% compliant. Well, we can click through and take a look into our source documentation to see where that came from. So we are making sure that even the Gen AI pieces are traceable. Accurate where accuracy matters. So I said that in the last slide. When we're talking about compliance, watchword hits, readability scoring, risk clause identification, all of those things, we are creating a deterministic foundation. So it is accurate where it needs to be, and that is verifiable by you. And then built for how you review. So built to support your color team review, your audits and negotiations, contract assessment and management. So ultimately, we make sure that your scoring and the system follows you throughout the process and supports your workflows, whatever structure that looks like today. So ultimately today, you have to make sure that in your reviews, every claim carries a citation. The platform will support that. In your compliance, same input, same score every time. The platform will support that with a deterministic review. And in a contract negotiation, every obligation is traced to a clause. Traceability is the key feature here, and you'll see that throughout the development of the platform as we continue to release features and give you a little bit of a showcase. So what does that schedule look like, and where does some of these items sit? So what we're looking at for the rest of the year is 4 releases, 3 to 4 releases. 4 is the goal. So 7.3, 4, 5, and 6. So right now, the bulk of what you're seeing sits in 7.3, 7.4. Why is that? Because the near releases are much more fully scoped, if you're familiar with that type of thing. And then based on feature improvements that need to happen, customer feedback, specific usage information, all of that will continue to grow into the other releases. So ultimately, 7.3 will be the next release that is shipping. 7.3 is going to contain our core workflow and usability theme. So core workflow, dashboards, compliance, SLED, expansion, compliance matrix pieces, Visi everywhere, and then that API and MCP server. That is slated for August. About 6 weeks after that, 6 to 7 weeks after that, we'll look for 7.4. That contracts module, so the complete contracts build out, multi-doc analysis, file formats and OCR, Slack and Teams integration, Salesforce integrations. We expect September into October. So that is a short-term timeline. So when I'm talking about all of these integrations and these modules and these enhancements, we're not talking about 6 months from now, a year from now. We're talking that by the end of government fiscal, you will see these available in the platform. And then as we file out the year, we have our expansion into our top end filter pieces, MS Dynamics, Excel add-in, and then some of our international portals and a box integration by the end of the year. And we will continue to fill those out. So big thing here, your input is a big part of deciding the next half. So this isn't, a suggestion box, but it is the ability to feed into what you're experiencing and what you need in your workflow. So our ask from you is tell your CSM the workflow, not the feature. So where are you losing time? Where are there real pain points of your process? And as you're using the new features in VisibleThread, or you have access to the new features in VisibleThread, where are you seeing slowdowns? Where are you seeing things you'd like to improve or enhance? So we are really open right now from a suggestions perspective, but really a collaboration perspective as well, because we want to make sure this is landing and we want to make sure that we're meeting you where you are. Our early access program, so proof of concepts internally on Visi Everywhere, MCP, outline generation are running now. We will have early users as a part of these, and we'll help shape them as they continue to develop. And then those dashboards kind of cut both ways. We see it as well. So on our side, we see what gets used, we hear your feedback, and it really helps to genuinely prioritize the next half and, you know, what 2027 is going to look like. So takeaway here, I know I'm a minute over, and I do have a question, but I want to make sure we have these takeaways. So our 6 themes, and like I said, we'll share these slides with you, so you'll have that information there. So 6 themes, sort of one filter, and it is this improving your workflow? Is this creating an improvement in your process? So that is the filter that we're judging everything by. So we want to make sure that you are winning more, you're working more efficiently, we're creating less friction. And then, you know, our workflow becomes shared. So our gates, views, tasks, comments, we want to move the pursuit inside the platform and add that project and proposal management part of the side and really help to build that out within VisibleThread. Our Gen AI pieces of the puzzle, we want to talk about drafting, accelerating. That the deterministic side is really going to make your decisions and give you that foundation that you need. So traceability is the theme of the VisibleThread platform now and always. And then our 4 kind of releases. So the goal is 4 releases through the rest of the year. The first 2 really heavy. And then some of our international integrations are going to close that out at the end of the year. And then, the future is still being written. So the feedback that you're giving us now and always is really important. And leaning into the platform and telling us what you need is super helpful, and we are very open to your experience. So again, and yes, I have my question here about the slides being available after the presentation. Yes, they will. So everybody that is here and everybody who registered will get a copy of the slides as well as the recording. And then I did have one question here I want to address. We have somebody who's new to the platform and wanted to understand if the platform suited to non-federal, non-USA tenders. Yes. So ultimately, I talked a little bit about that in our sourcing portals. So the platform is, and we'll follow up with you after to show specifically here. So the platform is obviously catered to with some of the opportunity sourcings in our early portals, some are US Fed customers. But when you look about the different aspects of the platform, you have the ability from a pipeline perspective and from a structure perspective to decide what that looks like. Now, if that's a traditional Shipley, federal, and I know Shipley isn't always federal, but most folks use it, vice versa, that what that gate review process looks like is up to you. So what your gate review process looks like is up to you. You also have the ability to select within the platform a non-US government opportunity, and you also have the ability to customize the inputs and customize some of those data fields. That will be continued to be developed as well. So the data fields are not firm on this is a structure of a US Fed opportunity. The analysis piece of it is not structured to a US Fed opportunity. So depending on what your opportunities looks like and the way requirements are extracted, that does not have to be in any specific structure, because while many of our customers are US federal, even that is the varied structure. Not every RFP is a standard CLM structured US Fed opportunity, depending on even what agency internally it looks like. So the system is going to work for all types of documents, whether those are Fed, SLED, international. There are ways that you can apply the technology. And then, of course, things like dictionaries, watchwords, the ability to do shreds, compares, all of those are not tied to a document structure. So while many of our customers are there and are very successful in that space, there is application outside of this in the commercial and international space as well, because many of our US federal customers are also in the international spaces. So I hope that answers the question at a high level. Happy to continue that conversation and give you some specific examples. So I'll stop there. Thank you so much for staying a few minutes over with me. And if any of the topics I talked about at the top end were interesting, you can go ahead and register for the series, connect with me on LinkedIn. But I hope today was helpful. I just wanted to give kind of a candid overview of what the rest of the year looks like, what our 6 themes look like, and how we're structuring. Ultimately, we want to meet you where you are. We want to build on the platform that we've had long and fruitful relationships with customers. We've been in this space for over 15 years, and our goal is to build on the foundation that you trust, meet you where you are, enhance the platform in ways that really support your workflow, and continue to develop and partner with you for years to come. So again, thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and hopefully we will see you soon. And of course, reach out with any questions on LinkedIn or email. Would be happy to chat anytime. Thanks so much and have a great day.